The night of the Christmas gala was supposed to look perfect. That was always the goal with my family. Appearance first, everything else somewhere far behind it. The ballroom glowed with warm lights and expensive decorations. People laughed a little too loudly. My father moved through the room like a man who owned the evening, shaking hands, nodding to investors, greeting politicians and executives who all knew him by name. My sister belonged there more naturally than I ever did. She stood near the center of the room in a deep red dress that people kept complimenting. I heard someone mention the price earlier, $25,000. She seemed proud of that number. I was holding a glass of wine mostly as something to do with my hands when it happened. Someone brushed past my shoulder. My arm moved. The glass tilted. A thin line of dark red spilled across the side of her dress. For a moment, nobody said anything. Then her hand hit my face. The sound cut through the room sharper than the music. "My lordy, 20,000 dress is ruined." Her voice rose so fast it felt rehearsed, like outrage was something she had practiced before arriving. The sting on my cheek wasn't what hurt. It was the silence around us. Dozens of people suddenly looking very interested in their drinks or their phones. My father appeared beside us within seconds. "What happened?"
"She dumped wine on me,"
my sister said, pointing at the stain like it was a crime scene. I started to speak. "It was an accident. Apologize," my father said. He didn't ask. He didn't look at the glass in my hand or the crowded floor around us. Just one word. Apologize. I hesitated, not because I refused to say it, but because something in his tone made the whole moment feel less about the accident and more about restoring order. His order? My sister folded her arms. Well, the room waited. My father turned toward the ballroom entrance and pushed the heavy door open. Cold air rushed inside. Outside, snow drifted quietly under the streetlights. "Apologize to your sister," he said calmly, "or get out of here." For a second, I thought he might smile, like this was still some kind of test, but he just held the door open. I looked at my sister. She didn't look angry anymore, just certain that I would give them what they wanted. The apology, the performance. Instead, I set the empty glass on a nearby table. Then I walked past my father and into the snow. No one stopped me. The cold outside felt cleaner than the air in that room. I walked for nearly an hour before I realized my phone had been vibrating in my pocket. Messages from relatives. A couple from my father's assistant asking if I was coming back to resolve the situation. I didn't answer. By the time I reached my apartment, the anger had settled into something quieter. Not revenge, just clarity. The truth was, the wine wasn't the real problem. It never had been. For years, I had been the useful one in the family, the one who worked behind the scenes when my father expanded the company into new markets. The one who handled late, night calls, negotiations, contracts. My sister loved the spotlight. I handled the structure. And structures have details people forget. That night, around 2 a.m, I opened my laptop and reread a document I hadn't looked at in years. A partnership agreement. My name sat on the second page beside my father's. At 8 the next morning, the phone rang in his house. Not from me. From the company's legal office. The clause was simple. If one partner voluntarily exited operations after a public dispute affecting leadership credibility, certain governance protections would activate automatically. Temporary board oversight. Account reviews. Operational pause until the ownership structure was clarified. Not punishment. Procedure. I imagined the moment they heard the explanation. My father sitting at the kitchen table. My sister probably still angry about the dress. Then, the realization spreading across the room that the problem was suddenly much larger. I wasn't there to see it. Instead, I sat in a quiet cafe a few blocks from my apartment. Morning sunlight filtered through the windows and settled across the table in front of me. My phone buzzed again. Calls, messages, one voicemail from my father. His voice sounded controlled, but tight. "Where are you?" I let the phone rest beside my coffee. For years I had responded immediately whenever he called. Meetings, problems, decisions. I was always available. This time I didn't move. The silence felt unfamiliar at first, then strangely comfortable. Across the street, people were walking through the snow, starting their morning without knowing anything about the gala, or the slap, or the dress. My sister might never apologize. My father might spend the rest of his life convinced I betrayed him. Maybe we would speak again. Maybe we wouldn't. But for the first time in a long while, the direction of my life wasn't something they were managing. It was just mine, and the quiet around that realization felt stronger than any apology I could have given the night before.